No. So, Louise, this is a video following the email that you sent today rejecting the car on the basis that there's an issue with the gearbox and a faulty gearbox and faulty steering. As you know, the car has been in several times with this alleged problem that you say you're having getting the car in and out of gear, and we have investigated it on every occasion and found absolutely no fault with the car. In terms of the steering, we've had the vehicle tracked on 3 occasions. All 3 occasions resulted in the tracking being set as it was when it arrived. In other words, it wasn't out, but it was reset anyway. I've driven the car on multiple occasions back from your property and to my property, as you know, and I have never had an issue with the car, including last night when I took it for a drive home just to be absolutely sure that there was no issue with it. I have inspected the gearbox oil, it is clear, and I have scoped into the bell housing to check the clutch and the clutch operation, and that is also clear. As a precautionary measure, as you know, we swapped out the gear linkage and serviced that just to make sure. But there is no issue with this car, none whatsoever. So I'm going to do a test drive now. I note that you have done some 5,000 miles since you've purchased it. And you purchased it in March, which by my math is February. I think you collected it in March when it was MOT'd with us. So by my maths, you've done roughly 1,000 miles a month. So
bearing in mind, you can't do that if it's got a faulty gearbox or faulty steering.
That's my point, Louise. You're travelling in the car 1,000 miles a month with a faulty gearbox, but there isn't a faulty gearbox, as I'm about to show you. So in terms of court action, what we'll do is we need to get over a couple of hurdles really first, which is, you asked me to look at the car and you told me on the basis that we could look at the car, and if it wasn't right, you would take matters further. We haven't actually finished looking at the car, although today was the day where I was going to call you to say, yes, your car's ready for you to pick up. But you have our courtesy car. And that wasn't the agreement. The agreement wasn't for me to give you a courtesy car to use whilst you then demanded the money back for this car. So we really would like you to return our car immediately. So here we go, we're driving, and I'm going to show you me changing gear without incident and without issue. And this is exactly how this car has driven from day one. It has never once stuck in gear for me or for Sarah or for our mechanics. I think the issue actually is driver error and not the vehicle. So we're in first and second, and I can change gear with this car with one finger. That's how easy the gear change is. A gearbox, if it has a fault, has a fault. It does not operate perfectly for the duration of the journey and then have a fault and then fix itself. It's impossible. It's a mechanical item. If a mechanical item has a fault, it's broken, and until that item is replaced, it stays broken. So what I'm trying to say here is this gearbox is working, and it is working in absolutely perfect order as it should be. There are no difficulties, as you can see, changing gear. I can do it with one finger. Sarah, you getting that?
Yeah.
So obviously we will make this representation in court, and you know, if anything changes after this video, it will be brought up in court with a possibility that somebody has done something to it, because quite clearly you can see. You can also see that I'm driving with one hand on the steering, and I'm not fighting the steering. So I can actually drive with one finger on the steering. I don't want to take my hand off of the steering because that would be silly, but the claim that the steering is pulling to the left it is always faulty is absolutely ludicrous. There is nothing wrong whatsoever with this steering. As a mechanic of 30 years, I can speak with some qualification and some confidence when I say there is nothing wrong with the steering. Again, I change gear with my finger and I can drive this car perfectly competently, and there is no issue with the steering. There is no vibration, there is no wobbling, it is perfectly responsive. It isn't, the electric motor isn't whining, it isn't low on fluid, there are no power steering fluid leaks. There is nothing on this vehicle that would indicate a fault. In fact, this is a really nice car. That's the truth of it. There's nothing wrong with it, and I'm sorry that you feel the way that you do, but I'm afraid I'm going to fight to not return this car on the pretense that you are making a misrepresentation about it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's driving exactly as it should, and it's obvious with this video that it's driving without those faults that you've said. And it's been like this, Louise, every single time that you've brought it in. What we did find on the last inspection is that you are traveling with the car with a bald tire, and you've also damaged your alloy wheel, and that what was the cause of the noise that you brought to our attention. And I'm afraid that's down to you. That's not actually down to us. As a matter of goodwill, I have put a brand new tyre on for you, which cost me £120, but I'm going to take that off now and put your old tyre back on, because I don't feel it's fair that I give you £120 worth of tyre for you to then demand the car back and your money back. So you will need to make arrangements for you to have a tyre, because obviously driving the tyre whilst bald is illegal. And I think really that's all we need to say, isn't it? Okay, so we'll just drive it back to the garage and you can observe with the camera. Can you get the gear change in there okay? And the steering?